update. I hope you're doing well. Kind of a mixed bag this week, I would say, in things that we're gonna go through and talk about. There isn't any one sort of standout big news, but there's a couple of different things, and it's allowed us actually to look across the industry and call out a couple of interesting things. So, first of all, there is a non-technical but kind of interesting blog post about empowering your workforce with agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot. So this is written by Srini Raghavan. He's the CVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot ecosystem, and this is kind of an interesting blog post. So there's nothing kind of seriously new or interesting in here apart from the Microsoft Marketplace, which is a kind of rebranding of the agent store, rebranding of the app store. So it's now called the Microsoft Marketplace, and this is a place for third parties, ISVs, to host their applications, but more and more that means agents. And so this is a whole blog post about the value of agents. Really, yes, this is a blog post about the value of agents to people and how you can get them from the Microsoft Marketplace, whether that is first-party agents or third-party agents. The bit that I think is interesting here is that the underlying current here is that agents, particularly those developed by partners, third-party agents by ISVs, by developers, indie developers, and other people, are really important to Microsoft right now. They drive engagement and they drive usage of Copilot, and that's really important to Microsoft. There've been a couple of sort of negative stories in the press this week, about Microsoft 365 Copilot usage, and I don't really want to get into that because it's all kind of just rumor. So I'm just kind of gloss over it. But what I will say is that agents are a really important way. And I think Microsoft knows this, that agents drive engagement, and so they drive stickiness and they drive engagement and they drive usage. So for all those reasons, this is the same story that's been told before back in Skype for Business Teams days, where it's apps and extensions. Partner integrations drive engagement and they drive usage, and that's why they're important. So I've said this before, it behooves Microsoft to really lean into the stuff and give developers good tooling and give them the platforms they need to provide these integrations, because that is the thing that is going to move the needle. So this blog post kind of speaks to that a little bit, and talks about how you can build your agents, how you can manage your agents, how you can publish them. And then it ends, if you're new to all of this and you kind of come in thinking, okay, I get it, we should be building agents for Copilot, where do I go from here? Actually, right at the end of this blog post is a good set of links as jumping off points that you could go to. So that's good. I want to talk about that. Like I say, it's not highly technical, and really the only kind of big thing in here is that it's now called the Microsoft Marketplace. But I did think it was an interesting reminder of the importance of third-party extensions in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Okay. If you've been following the news, you'll know about the changes that Microsoft are making to their CEO structure, and the new person to kind of help Satcher out, I guess, or take on some of the commercial stuff is Judson Althoff, and I know nothing about Judson. Looking at my LinkedIn, I can see that he's been around a while. He was with Microsoft for over 10 years. And has sort of carved his way through, and lots of people lining up to congratulate him and say that he's a good person to do this role. But really, I don't know very much about him. So I was pleased to see that Directions on Microsoft and Mary Jo Foley from Directions has put together a blog post called "Know Your Microsoft Execs, Meet Judson Althoff," which is perfect. It's kind of a briefing document for anyone who isn't quite sure who Judson is. And what he's been doing, and what he's now going to do, and what it means for Satcher. And I think that's interesting. I have some thoughts on this. I don't really know where this is going to go, but in the meantime, this is the kind of new structure. I don't think it'll make any real difference to us day to day. This is kind of more of a big company thing, but it is interesting. And just if I think it's important to know something about the people that run these companies. And if you're like me, this stuff comes up in conversation and people ask you what you think about it. So if you've got non-technical friends and family who see this going past in the news and ask you, what's Judson like? At least you've got this document to help you out. Okay, let's go somewhere wildly different. So I follow of the blogs that I follow, and there's quite a few blogs I follow, and I don't often post about the stories, and I don't talk about them here because they're not directly relevant. This one is kind of really small, and I think kind of is interesting and might be relevant. It's from the Google testing blog, and they have a series called Tech on the Toilet, which is such a great idea. That basically, it's a blog post that's inspired by something they did at Google, where I think every week or month or whatever, they would have a short kind of piece of advice and piece of information about testing or tech. I think it was kind of best practice, that kind of patterns of practice, best practice stuff. And they'd take one thing, but they would print it out and they would put it in the bathrooms, on the on the stalls, in the restrooms, in kind of where your gaze goes when you're otherwise engaged, as a way just to kind of keep people thinking about this stuff. And I think that was really cool. They turned it into a set of blog posts, and this is one of those, which is it's a really kind of short, interesting piece of information. Again, just general kind of advice, which here the particular advice is to sort things and have a mechanism to automatically sort lines in source code. Why would you want to do that? Things like variables like this. And this is quite cool, actually. Didn't mean to really do that, but there's a this is like a keep sorted, which is like an extension you can use to keep a list of variables sorted. Why would you want to do that? It helps you much more easily catch problems like this, which you wouldn't necessarily see in the blue bit, but here we've got two variables with the same name. Not a problem, but it's not a syntactical error, it's a logical error. And so things like that are much easier to see when they're sorted. So I think this is kind of cool. There'll be equivalents in your language to kind of keep your things sorted. But I think it's an interesting thing to remember, just a kind of small throwaway thing when you're writing code. Just keep that in mind. I went into that thinking, why would you want to sort your variables? Actually, that's a really good, interesting idea, and it's one more thing to think about. Okay, and then finally, the last thing I want to leave you with is some just like a roadmap. This is for Visual Studio, big fat Visual Studio, and it's kind of a roadmap around all the AI things that are coming into Visual Studio. And this is good for me because I need that reminder sometimes. I use AI in development, and I use GitHub Copilot a lot, but I sometimes kind of forget, and I go back to the old projects, the projects that started before 2021, 2022, something like that, that don't really feature any AI. And I'm slowly trying to bring AI into them. And Visual Studio is helping me a lot with that, because a lot of those older projects are Visual Studio, like the big Visual Studio. And this is a bit of a roundup, and we've covered some of these things before. I know we have around the agents showing up in debugger and some other things, but this is kind of a nice roundup of all the things that are going into Visual Studio and are ongoing. Also, some performance things that are coming. We know 2026, Visual Studio 2026 is around now as a preview release. Also MCP and different models. So this is like a nice roundup, and it's kind of a reminder that if you're using Visual Studio, just to kind of check in with yourself and make sure you're not missing out on things, because this stuff does evolve, and it's really easy just to kind of open the project that you've been working on for 5 years and not think about this stuff and just carry on doing it the way you used to do it. I'm super guilty of that as well, so I'm sure it must be a thing. So just remind yourself, go check out that blog post and just remind yourself, are you using all of the tools and the features you could be using to make yourself a better programmer? All right, I think that's everything from me this week. Have a great week, whatever it is you're doing, and I will speak to you again next time.